Well, hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday. I apologize. I'm re-recording this. Apparently, every once in a while I do this. I forgot to hit the pound sign because on the other recordings that I do, you just finish talking and you hang up. But on this one, you have to hit pound and then confirm you want to record it. So I forgot. So I'm re-recording it. So how many of you have heard of something called 5 basic needs? It isn't Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It is the way that God wired you. And I'll tell you why this is really important. It helps you figure out your why and how you work. So if you are, let's say, safety and security, knowing that you're, let's say, half of all your parties, or, for every 4 parties you book, 3 of the 4 hold. That is a safety and security person that's going to say, okay, if I need this much money by this much time, it helps you figure out how you think, what motivates you, and what is of value to you. And I'll tell you why this is super important. Once you understand which one of these 5 you are the strongest in, it'll help you really embrace what you're doing. And I'm going to tell you, everybody has all 5 of these, okay? And they can change over time, especially if you have a life-changing event like newly married or divorced, or you have a child or a move across country or something like that. The goal is to identify your number one need, which directly relates to what motivates and drives you, right? So don't assume that you know what another person's number one thing is. Have them tell you what it is, and that way you can work with that person, whether it be a team member or whatever. It's fun to kind of figure out what your kids are or your significant other. Sometimes we can live in a less than powerful life because we're trapped in a role that doesn't meet our number one basic need. So Mary Kay is very much about freedom and choice and power and achievement. They're very recognition driven. Well, if recognition doesn't drive you and your drive is fun and pleasure, you may not care about the scoreboard. You may not care about that as long as it's fun. And that's fine. You just need to know that and find the fun in things. And I'm going to explain all the categories in just a second. Also be careful that you're not being locked into something, because that's what, let's say you've got a running partner that's a sister consultant, and she is love and belonging. And so everything she does meets that need. And you're not love and belonging. Yours is fun and pleasure or power and achievement or whatever. If you're running with somebody who's different than you are, don't feel like you have to do things the way that she does, because that's what's keeping her motivated and her excited and her focused. It may not be yours. Does that make sense? So this isn't your personality. You can cross-reference it with things like love languages, DISC, that kind of stuff. But what will help you is a question to ask yourself to figure out what you are is, why do you want to do what you are doing? So if you're in Mary Kay, why do you want to do Mary Kay? And I'm going to give you the categories, the 5 basic needs. And if you say, if blank were taken away, what would you feel? Would you feel as if you were dying? Like, let's say yours is freedom and choice. So if your freedom and choices were taken away, would you feel as if you were dying? Like, I can't function in freedom and choice. If I have to have a really set schedule and I have to be constantly checking in every hour with somebody, that absolutely wouldn't work for me, then that's probably something that you're really high in. That might even be your number one. Does that make sense? And the better you know people, the more power you have to help them reach their potential, okay? Your level of confidence can and will affect your number one need, okay? And it's really important once you figure out which one you are, if just let your director or your coach or whoever you're working with. So I'm going to give you this condensed version, and then I'm going to go back and give you a tiny bit more detail, and I promise to do this quick. All right, so, and these are not necessarily in order. These are not from important to less important. So one of them is called power and achievement. This person loves a challenge, loves to break records, often competitive. They want to do the most and be the best. When they're not being challenged in a particular area of their life, like Mary Kay or whatever, they will channel all their energy into another area of life. And this is power and achievement. A good example of that would be like Gloria Mayfield Banks. All right, so that's power and achievement. Second category, and I'll go into more detail. Second category is love and belonging. This person loves people. They are very others-focused. They will do for others what they won't even do for themselves. They're kind of rescuers. They have a save-the-world mentality. You need them to be mentors with survivors. They need to learn to let go and become great at the moment. All right, third choice is freedom and choice. This person loves independence. Now, this is a lot of the Mary Kay people because we're independent contractors. They hate to be micromanaged. They want to create their own path. They're good listeners. It allows them to figure out their own way. They will take and recreate stuff. They start off well, but they can get off sometimes in the wrong direction, which is why sometimes if that's your number one, having an accountability partner might be key, whether it be your director, your national, whatever. Choose your battles with them. So, like, it's great to do a weekly accomplishment sheet, but they may not find value in that. They're often perceived as difficult and not a team player, but that is not true. All right. Number 4, safety and security. For this person, everything has to have a process, typically. They don't typically make major quantum leaps because they are a little bit more methodical. Sometimes they take it one step at a time. They're a little bit more slow to change, but they can move consistently and they can follow a proven path. During times of if the company makes a change, like a product change or a commission change or the way that we do things, it can lose them a little bit. So kind of helping them put the pieces together in order is really key for them. They need small, achievable goals. The last one is fun and pleasure. This person's got to be the life of the party. They're people magnets. They forget that they're running a business, so the results or their purpose can be sometimes missed. All right, so let me give you a little bit more detail. Let's go back to power and achievement. I call this one the need to conquer. They are empowered by ambition. Achievement is an urgent calling, highly competitive spirit, not always in competition with others, but they're competitive in the need to excel. They strive to be the best. They really want to be number one for themselves, like the best version of themselves. So what you want, so it helps them figure out it helps you figure out what you want to do when you're working with them. They love to break a record because of the win factor. They just want to have a win. They love the spotlight, appreciation, admiration, respect. They value relationships that challenge her. But if her leadership does not challenge her, she may leave. She has great clarity through the process. So in other words, she clears the path because she's extremely determined. She's very resilient. Not weighed down by incidentals, takes the lead without thinking. So these people are energized by the win. They can become a little rigid in their leadership or expectation of others. They don't usually like messy, emotional, or complicated situations. They can often find themselves disconnecting and detaching. So they're like so focused. They sometimes don't realize that they are stepping over other people. Not in a mean way. That's just their need to just divide and conquer, if you get it. All right. The next one, love and connecting. So this is belonging, the need to influence. These people are empowered by the influence of affecting another person's heart or action. They have a dedicated interest in how others think. These people make great coaches. They want to know how you're responding, how you operate. They love being in the middle of a great heartfelt communication. They're very physically affectionate, often, being the person who hugs, easily demonstrate love. They require physical touch and comfort others with physical connection. They value relationships that stimulate their head, their heart, and their soul. Progress is made through elevating other people's beliefs. So they make friends easily. They love, like if you hung up a conversation with a love and connection person, they're going to say, man, these 10 minutes made all the difference in the world. I feel so much more confident right now to book a party. And they hang up and you're just like, you just got all your emotional tanks filled for the day, right? You love helping stimulate somebody else's head, heart, and soul and helping someone else rise to the greatest version of themselves. They are totally energized by the ability to influence, and they're energized by making a difference. They sometimes can become too absorbed and sensitive to the need of others. Sometimes they have a little bit of oversensitivity, which can complicate the clarity to reach the goal. Because they go, well, I don't think she likes me. And it's just like, well, I think she likes you. She just wants to get the job done. And the last one I want to say about love and connection is they find it sometimes difficult to detach from unhealthy people or situations. So if someone's not, you have a team member that's just not engaging in the unit goal or your team goal or going to DI2 or whatever. All right, so let's talk about the third one, freedom and choice. This is a lot of people in Mary Kay, in my opinion. Freedom and choice, they're powered by an open agenda. They don't respond favorably to rigid rules or strict conformity. They have an innate desire to create their own way. They can easily stray from the planned venue. They do love to soar in a positive direction, and they desire to control their decisions and their schedule and, like, how things roll. They value mature relationships that don't require constant attention. So if, let's say, that's you and your director or whoever's mentoring you or coaching you or your national is constantly saying, hey, let's check in every day at noon or let's check in here, you might feel that that's too regulated or too demanding. So you might go, oh, I think I'd really touch base on Tuesdays and Fridays or Mondays and Wednesdays or whatever. People in freedom and choice love to express themselves through their own creative design. They sometimes can be perceived as being rebellious or disrespectful just because they want fluidity in their day. They just want things to be whatever. Now remember, you're a little bit of all of these, because I'm sitting here reading these going, okay, well, I'm definitely all of those, but I think of these three so far, my freedom and choice is higher than the other two. Love connecting with people, love to influence, love power and achievement. Now the next one's called safety and security. This is a need for stability. It's empowered by a stable environment. It's not innately impulsive. So they typically think through things. If the person, mentor or coach, is really spontaneous or not planned out, she does a lot of things by the seat of her pants, it makes the safety and security person anxious. They value trust and continuity in relationships, meaning that, it's reciprocated. They feel most confident and comfortable when there is a known plan. That's like, okay, well, if you want to be a star consultant, you need to sell at least 300 a week, week in and week out. That gives you enough to do an order and be a star consultant and put money in your pocket. That they understand. That's a tried and true known plan. They're motivated by the ability to control and create their own future. They feel better saving money. In fact, believe it or not, they'd rather save money than spend it. They are energized by a savings account. And I'm that way a little bit too. Can be too cautious. They have to think through invitations or decisions with a need to feel comfortable. Their decisions are also affected by physical safety, so they're not usually quite as spontaneous. Okay, and then the last one, fun and pleasure. Now, I actually have a colleague who is like this, who literally says, oh, I'm not going to go to that meeting at seminar because it doesn't sound like it's any fun. And I'm like, I know, but it's training. Yeah, I don't want to go to that. I'm like, okay. So I'm assuming her personality, I don't know her very well, she's got to be all fun and pleasure. So it's the need for adventure. They're empowered by a party. They're motivated by the ability to have fun, conversation, and laughter. They don't respond favorably to very serious or dull or boardroom conversations. They are drawn to music. They are the person you put in charge of the music for your meeting. They're moved by music. They're inspired by the opportunity to experience the uncommon, a new venue, a new adventure. They love vacations, not for the rest necessarily, but for the experience. And that's where if you've got someone on your team that's fun and pleasure, talking about all the different experiences they can have in Mary Kay. They're willing to work hard in order to have fun options. So if her leader is very demanding of her time, she's going to start feeling resentful. So like if she hears, well, you have to be at all special events or you're not a good consultant or you're not a good team player, they might go, well, I don't want to go to all the special events. So you might lose that person with that mindset. These people that are fun and pleasure are energized by laughter. It's either going to be fun or she's going to make it fun. They're not motivated by workshops or long training sessions unless they're extremely entertaining. Schedules several vacations, puts a lot into her schedule that's not interpreted as necessary, but she considers it fun. So keep in mind, you are some of all of these, but what I would do is put a little line through maybe the two that you think that are not as high. Like fun and pleasure is important for me, but it's not one of my top. Safety and security, I don't think that's one of my tops either. That's important to me, like really important to me, but I don't think that's one of my top two. So you've got to, I already know my number one, I'm pretty sure, is freedom and choice. So figure out what maybe your top two are. Maybe you could have a quick coaching conversation with your director or your national. But here's why this is important. What motivates, and I'll just pick myself, motivates me is freedom and choice. Anytime I thought, do I want to keep doing Mary Kay? I thought, okay, what's my alternative? Going back to a corporate job, which is, 7:30 to 5:30 with a commute in there, and I have no control over when I have lunch with my friends, when I book a hair appointment, when I get to see my kids, when I get to go on their school field trips. Like I give no control over any of that. Someone else is calling the shots for my life. So therefore, I will discipline myself and make Mary Kay work, because the alternative is not an option for me. And that's why, for me, I have stuck around after 30 years. We just earned our 17 pink Cadillac, even though I said I would never drive a pink Cadillac, because for me, my need for freedom and choice is super, super important, like very, 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 very top. And it's interesting because some of the people in my life are not the same, and that can be sometimes a great thing. It adds a different dynamic. Hope you found this helpful. Have a fabulous day, and I'll talk to you all later.